Agent confirmed.
Good morning, Mr. Carrico. As you know, this summer movie season has been lackluster. But a new movie is coming out that has the potential to turn things around. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 in the IMAX, and review it before it is pushed out by lesser films. The members of your film fan club team have already been assembled. Movie buff John Leon and local hunthead Alex McKellar. Should you or any member of your team be caught or cancelled, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions. Good luck, Mr. Carrico. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
I accept. And we're here at the Dallas IMAX.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Film Fan Club Show. I am Sam Carrico. Wow, we've reached the season finale of the Film Fan Club Show. Part of me says good. It's been a cruel summer at the movies this year. I knew Indiana Jones was trouble when I walked into the theater. The Flash situation with Ezra Miller was delicate, while Ant-Man and Guardians 3 seemed to cut the invisible string of the last great American dynasty, Marvel Studios. I needed to calm down. So last weekend I went to Kansas City to see a concert to take my mind off things. And I think you might know who I already saw. That's right, Sparks, the geniuses behind the story and music for the best movie of 2021, Annette. And yes, you can bet I lost my mind when they opened up with their hit So May We Start. I also saw Taylor Swift while I was there. And let me tell you, that highway going from Tulsa to Kansas City was like swerving through a sea of estrogen. I actually had one lady cut me off, and she didn't even use a turn signal. She just waved a sign that said 1989 out her window. But little did I know, Taylor Swift is a film fan. Jennifer Garner and Taylor Lautner were both at the concert, making for a Valentine's Day cast reunion. That's one of my favorite movies. And not only that, Swift used the opportunity to premiere her new music video, I Can See You, and honest to God, the whole thing is a Mission Impossible tribute. Taylor Lautner and Joey King play IMF-type agents pulling off a heist in the perfect homage to Tom Cruise. Swift even recreates Tom's rock throw from Ghost Protocol. And honestly, why wouldn't the queen of pop music pay homage to the king of movies? The Mission Impossible films have grossed over $3.5 billion, and for good reason. The first film is the pinnacle 90s action movie that knows how to smoothly blend cheese with intensity, and Mission Impossible 2 adds a John Woo flair and throws in Anthony Hopkins for good measure, while the third film is near perfection, utilizing J.J. Abrams' mystery box formula in the best way possible and getting the performance of a lifetime out of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Movies 4, 5, and 6 take that formula to the next level, with an emphasis on real locations and eye-popping stunts that put the green screen bullshit we see in most superhero movies to shame. Rogue Nation and Fallout, both directed by Christopher McQuarrie, are two of the most well-put-together movies I've ever seen. So if anyone can save this year's summer movie season, it's this team. Now I know what you might be thinking. Sam, what about the elephant in the room? What about all that Scientology stuff? And I know what, you're right. That's why I've made the decision I'm going to become a Scientologist. You heard it here first. I mean, my day-to-day life's not really going to change that much. I'm going to spend every day the way I normally do, avoiding an audit. All right, let's welcome tonight's guests. All right, he is the co-host of the Mission Matinee podcast, which is part of the Film Fan Club network of podcasts, Alex McKellar.
Hey, Sam. How you doing?
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too.
And he is the co-host of the Mission Matinee podcast, which is part of the Film Fan Club network of podcasts. John Leon is here.
Howdy, howdy.
It's good to see you, John.
Nice to be here.
Man, guys, and we've been doing this whole bonus series now. It feels like it's taken on its own entity. But we just as a little bit of an overview for maybe our Film Fan Club show viewers that haven't gotten the whole backstory. Alex, do you want to start with a little bit of your history of this franchise and tie it in a little bit with what we've been doing?
Yeah, man. So, we've talked about before, I've loved this franchise for a long time. I mean, I grew up watching the first two Mission Impossibles. I think I didn't see one in theaters. I might have saw 3 in theaters. But yeah, but 4 through now 7, seen them in theaters, tried to catch them in IMAX. I love the stunts. I love the movies. And, as we'll probably talk about, it just seems to keep getting better. There's some wonky stuff going on with 2 and 3. Still love those a whole bunch, but it's like 4, 5, 6, now 7. It just seems to just keep ramping up.
Yeah. And John, this is my basically outside of number 4, which I saw in theaters and didn't really pay much attention to, didn't know the franchise at the time. This has all been new for me. It seems like you're a little bit in the middle between me and Alex.
Yeah, I think I saw, I didn't see 1, 2, or 3 in theaters, but I think I saw 4, 5, and 6 in theaters. And I'd seen 1, 2, and 3 before. So I'd seen them all before, but I had never really sat down and watched them in the way that we have.
And what has been your experience kind of as we've been going through?
They have way more depth than I remembered them having. There's a lot of crazy character stuff that continues from one to the next that I hadn't really picked up when I saw them as they were coming out, There's a lot to it.
Yeah. And Alex, you've put these on another level for me because you're the hunt head going into this. And I was like, I watched these and I'm like, okay, we'll have fun watching them. And then each one, and it's one of those franchises too, where you expect it to get worse as it goes on, but then it just keeps getting better.
It just keeps getting more insane, keeps getting more ridiculous.
And obviously you have the Fallout shirt on. So we're going into Dead Reckoning on a very high note, So what was do you have any trepidations going into Dead Reckoning?
Really, the nerves came around from getting y'all excited about a movie, because there's one experience going to see Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 where I had a similar thing. I got a group of people to go. The first 2 were great, and then the third one not so much. So I was like, I don't have doubts for McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, but because we've now spent a month and a half rewatching and have been building it up, I'm like, I really hope that this isn't the first misfire. So it was more just that, having been burned by movies in the past, oh man. But, as we'll talk about, it wasn't a misfire.
Really quickly, John, did you have any idea that this was going to be a misfire going into it?
I figured it was going to be good. They'd all been consistently good, especially the McQuarrie ones had a consistent, level of quality. And then this was the first one that I'd seen in IMAX, and so I kind of expected that to have an effect on how I felt about it as watching it.
It's so hard not to just have a visceral reaction to this movie. Likewise, John, this was the first one that I definitely saw in IMAX. It was the first one in over 10 years that I've seen, and the first one that I've seen actually knowing the lore and paying attention to it. So watching it all, I guess as we start to go into the overview of our reactions to the first initial off the top out of the theater reactions to the movie, I was blown away. Holy crap. This was just seeing it in IMAX, seeing the stunts they pull off, seeing the way that this is they've cultivated such a universe of in-jokes and references and character moments that pay off and payoffs. I was so satisfied seeing this movie that the fact that it's part 1 is the only bad thing about it. It's my gosh, didn't get to see the whole thing. But it's still, and this is what a lot of people say, is it going to feel incomplete? I didn't feel, it is, I guess by definition, a little incomplete, but it's still thematically, I think in an Infinity War sense, kind of works. So let's just segue into your initial reaction, Alex. What did you think?
Oh yeah. As we switch to my notes, I got to get my glasses that actually help me see. So I'm going to stop being Mission Impossible, Alex, and get back to being able to see what I wrote. But yeah, you were sitting next to me. I was basically like a kid in the candy store the whole time. Just little callbacks, little moments, big moments. Obviously saw in the trailer, Kittredge is back. One of my all-time favorite, IMF directors. So just super fun. And then, that getting out of the theater, only incomplete again, in the sense that we didn't finish the full mission, there's still obviously a whole nother movie's worth of stuff to do. And we can talk about, where we think the other characters are going. But yeah, I think Ethan had a solid, maybe not the full arc that we're going to get for these 2 movies, but he had the moment of growth, the whole thing, the other characters coming more into their own, continuing arcs of Luther, Benji, so it was nice to see some of the returning cast. It was nice to meet the new people. And yeah, I didn't have that feeling. Across the Spider-Verse, I loved a whole bunch, but I didn't feel we just got the setup done. I felt like we got a full story, even though we got to finish it later.
John, when you were walking out of the theater, what was running through your mind?
I just kept thinking how sick it was. The score is great, the acting is great, the action is sick, all the set pieces are cool. There's crazy tension during all the exposition scenes, so I never felt like there were any real downbeats. So just from start to finish, it was awesome.
This is a cliche to say, but this is why you go to the movies. This is a shot in IMAX. They're shooting things in IMAX that there's no other way to shoot these types of stunts that they do in these movies. It justifies it and they're all practically. So you're just watching something really happening in the best format possible. And it just leaves you buzzing when you walk out of the theater.
Oh, yeah.
And then you mentioned the score, and it goes to the production design, the sound design, but also the way that the IMAX theaters are set up. You just feel everything that happens in your soul because of the way the sound design is. It's just such a good just reaction that I'm having to this movie. And I'm still working through my rankings. I don't know how it's going to end up being and in the series, where it stacks up, and we'll get there. We are going to attempt to rank them by the end. But is there anything, I mean, I've got a lot to say about as we kind of jump through sections of the movie. I don't have a beat by beat note analysis but I'll try my best to kind of work through the things that jump to mind, and feel free to jump in and add anything else. But is there anything else you guys want to say overview, off the top kind of reaction type of things you want to say before we start analyzing it more?
I mean, just go see it in the IMAX if you can.
That's the thing. Yeah. If somebody's watching this to be like, oh, should I watch Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1? I would say probably.
Yeah.
The one of the teaser trailers or whatever before did that thing that almost all movie trailers do, where they're like, the best action movie of the year. See it on the biggest screen possible. And I'm super cynical about marketing, and so I was always kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. It'd be fine seeing it on whatever. And then we watched it in IMAX, and I was like, oh no, yeah, you needed to see that in IMAX. That was crazy.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we always kind of go into these movies, we're talking about the tropes. These movies have such a robust, check mark, but it doesn't feel like check marks. But like you got to hit some of the beats of these movies, and obviously they all have a great cold open. Alex, do you want to walk us through what was happening in the cold open and whether or not you liked it?
Yeah. So I mean, it was interesting starting like immediately with like this Russian sub. So we're getting all of this stuff going on. Not really sure like what it's about. Is this like the thing that we need to stop in this movie? Are we getting a movie where the Russians are the baddies? Like what's happening? And then you get the cool key that you've seen in the trailers. That is all set up. And then, so we get that, and we can get into exactly what goes on. Like, but basically, you see in the trailer too, the sub gets hit by a torpedo, goes down, and then we jump ahead in time a little bit, and we get the classic guy bringing Ethan his briefing. He steps out of the shadows. It's like more somber this time, even than Fallout. Like Fallout was done really seriously, like Fate whispers to the warrior, that whole wonderful bit. But this one even more so. He almost like he's like the godfather of the IMF, like welcoming the new recruit in to the thing. And then I also like that we get like the mission briefing is very analog, as like we'll go through, like it's just a tape recorder and some photos. Like we hadn't seen like photos for a mission briefing I think since the first movie, maybe. Like it's all like digitally and whatever, but this time just a tape recorder, just some photos. And then probably one of my favorite scenes, we cut to like all the intelligent agencies having this big meeting, and then just describing the IMF as like they're the people that we call when we can't get it done. Like they all have to tell like their boss in there. They're like, oh yeah, we just leave notice. And I loved it. And then get built up to like the little bit of a twist there. And then like a wonderful stinger of like, we get a nice mask reveal, we get a nice, action beat, and then we're off to the races with another fun theme song drop.
And we're talking a little bit of spoilers now. So this in the Arabian part is part of the cold open, right?
That's right. Yeah, that was the one thing I did skip over because again, I've only seen it the once. But so then we get a wonderful action scene in the desert, and another great like sandstorm, callbacks to 4, the sandstorm chase, and then this time we get just an awesome action scene. And like we talked about afterwards, just like how smart it was using that, because you get to see like the exit wounds of gunshots, but it's not blood red, so you just like the action is cranked up, but in a way that still skirts into that like PG-13 rating. So it's a lot of fun from jump. It does start a little bit slower, like the build up, it seems like a little, like it's with the Ethan briefing, a little more somber, a little more serious, but like once it gets going, it really gets going.
I'm of two minds about that. It does take a while to get there, but then by the time you get into that sting, it feels very earned. So I'm like, oh, hell yeah, we're going. We're rocking and rolling. John, as I throw to you talking about everything leading into the needle drop that leads us into the main credits, I was very taken aback by that fake out with, or the idea that Ilsa has been killed.
Okay, so We're just doing spoilers now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to go a little bit chronologically through the film, so the
Uh-huh.
things that they're at this point in the film, they're leading us to believe that Ilsa's been killed. So yeah, that's why I'm throwing to you.
Okay. I just don't want to spoil too much of it because it is. I mean, it is like it's very well done, right? You've already said that they fake us out with Ilsa's death. It seems like she's been killed by these mercenaries, and then she like hasn't. They do a little like go and hide because Ethan is still trying to protect everybody. But it like I thought she was dead.
Yeah,
I
me
was
too.
Like, oh, they got rid of her because they didn't want to have to deal with that character arc and dynamic for this new 2-parter. And then they didn't, and I was like, oh, cool, she's still around.
Right. I had a similar reaction. I was like, oh wow, they're going to kill Ilsa, dang. And then yes, I was like, oh, that's why they did it. They just wanted to write her out and bring in Haley Atwell, didn't they? So put a pin in that. What did you think of the rest of our opening?
I mean, the scene where Kittredge comes back, and it's all the intelligence heads talking, and they're talking to whoever Cary Elwes plays. I don't know what his rank was or position, but he's clearly in charge, but didn't know what the IMF was. So Kittredge like starts explaining what the IMF is, and all the other heads are like, Kittredge, you're gonna blow up our spot, dude. And it's just like I loved that, and then the whole twist there with what happens in that scene is super good.
And by the opening, by the time we're in the main credits, we know what the entity is. I mean, we don't know exactly who's behind it, but we have an idea that the villain of this film is an AI, basically. And in the trailers, I remember seeing Gabriel a lot and knowing, okay, this is kind of having a little bit of idea of who he is. I was kind of surprised by the AI being the villain of the film. Alex, did you know that the villain of the film was going to be an AI going into it?
I did not know that it was going to be an AI. I was like, all of the sort of, because in the trailer a lot, there's that like eye imagery of the big thing. And and like talking about truth and all of this like disinformation. Like, again, one thing I love about this series, especially with McQuarrie at the head, like the trailers show you the cool stuff, but it's not how it happens in the movie. Like even some of the action beats are just like flashbacks that of stuff Ethan or Ilsa did before the movie started that we saw in the trailer, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, like I was surprised that we're dealing with like a rogue AI, like an intelligent artificial intelligence out there, wreaking havoc, causing problems, getting all our data, and apparently the ability to corrupt truth so much that like the reason we're in this warehouse is that all of the intelligent agencies have like all of their like agents just like turning all of their digital information into hard copy. There's just like all of these people just at typewriters, like making sure they got the logistics, the secrets, all that stuff so that it can't get corrupted by this AI, which was very interesting.
And you guys focused on a plot beat that with Tom Cruise's character that I didn't quite pick up on the first time. The reason he goes rogue in the first place is because he recognizes you guys shouldn't have this power. The community, which is all the intelligence people, they're like, we want this. I mean, you should go get it for us. And he's like, no, I'm going to go destroy this. So did you like that aspect, John? He's like calling them out.
Yeah, I mean, like, it happens in a lot of like spy movies, right? Where the main character is the spy and he's just doing whatever the government needs him to do, and he's heroic for that. Whereas in this, he's explicitly going against their orders because like Kittredge is like, well, look, nobody else is talking to us about this, which means they're all probably trying to control it too, which means we have to get there and get it for ourselves, or else we'll be the ones that get put down in this new world order of sentient AI algorithmic control. And then Ethan is like, no, you don't understand. That's not good. We're not doing that. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've been hanging out, in Dallas, I mean, we are all here together in Dallas this weekend, and we've all been hanging out listening to the soundtrack for this movie. And we're always like, all right, how's the main titles? A big thing for me is you got gold with that original from the first movie. How much are you going to change it every time? Do you need to change it? I think with the last couple, I was like, all right. I can't remember which one. I think number 2 really bothered me. I didn't like number 2's take on it at all.
The metal one?
Yeah,
the Limp Bizkit cover?
And then, yes, the Limp Bizkit. I did not like Limp Bizkit's take on the Mission Impossible theme, believe it or not.
It's adorable. I still love it.
So that put a bad taste in my mouth where I'm like, all right, you just don't need to change it that much, Pull a House of the Dragon. Just do the same fucking song. But then this one, Fallout elevated it in a way that I liked. This one I think blows Fallout out of the water. I think the more we've been listening to it, the more I like the marching band drums. I think, man, this song slaps.
Yeah, it goes really hard. I'm still like, again, it could just be the nostalgic connection I have to the Fallout one. Like, it's still like those bongos, like the foot chase, all of that stuff. I love it so much. But I am, this one's winning me over for sure. I'm gonna be listening to it a lot.
It's like, it's interesting to me because it doesn't really even change a whole lot of the rhythm from Fallout to Dead Reckoning, but it changes the percussion instrument that's being used, and it just gives it a completely different feel to it. And I would like, and they keep coming back in all the action scenes. So every time there was an action scene, the marching band drums would come in, and I would just be like,
It's so good.
Lauren Balfe does it again.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
And which brings us to our next big plot point is the Abu Dhabi airport, and because that's where they go to get the key and introduce us to Haley Atwell's character, and also starts to introduce the storyline if he's on the run. And one of my favorite moments in the whole Mission Impossible franchise, I think, and this isn't even recency bias. It's just so fucking good. The way they shoot whenever the CIA agents are looking for him, and they're like, he must be somewhere. Like, what does he say? What's the line exactly?
I was gonna surely seen it once like you. Yeah, he's like, he's got to be around here somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say. He's got to be around here somewhere. And as he says that, the camera shows like Tom Cruise running in the background,
running in the roof. Yeah,
it's so Ethan Hunt. It's
I know.
so good. And then Alex, I'll throw into you as you talk about one of your things. You predicted something that happens in this sequence was going to happen in this movie. So as I throw to you, what did you like about this and the introduction to Haley Atwell?
Well, one, like I like the banter we get between Ethan, Benji, and Luther at the very opening of this. Like, Ethan showing him the key, he's explaining why we got to get it, all of this stuff, and that they're going to be on their own because IMF is coming after this to control it, whereas we're going to destroy it. And we get a fun little callback to the very first one because Benji's like, "Oh, the Net Ranger, the Phineas Freak," and I was like, "Oh, nice, going all the way back, love it." But then, so I had predicted with you guys that that we're gonna see sleight of hand magic again because I've been watching one and I keep thinking that like, oh, we're gonna get more of the first Mission Impossible in this one, and then like, they hit all of the beats. We got the beautiful De Palma canted angles, we got the sleight of hand magic, even the Phineas Freak. We got Kittredge back. I was just having a great time. Yeah, and then as soon as it happened, it was even more than I expected because there's also a quick shot in the trailer where Ethan like holds the key up like this, and I was like, yeah, he's about to do like pickpocketing or sleight of hand, and then just goes on and he does a bunch of little bits, and I was like, I was having a great time. But yeah, this whole sequence with them like hacking the CIA's like Overwatch thing to like put a fake Ethan face on just random people, and like they think that it's a mask as well. Like this movie like did such a good job like having good mask moments and then also playing with the idea of having mask moments that it was just like I was having a great time. Like, I mean, McQuarrie knows his franchise so well, and he's just like flexing almost with this, his like third directorial one and the 7th movie in the series. It was a great time.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The mask. I mean, we didn't focus on it too much at the beginning, but he gets 2 mask moments with when he breaks in
and then the breakout,
and then the great moment where he's like, "Well, how are you going to get out of here?" And Kittredge sees him wearing a Kittredge mask. Like, oh no, it's so good. But John, as I throw to you about the Abu Dhabi stuff, obviously Haley Atwell gets introduced here in the great CIA escape, but we get a whole other level to this and some great Benji moments as a potential nuclear bomb gets thrown into the mix.
I really liked the whole airport sequence. Haley Atwell as Grace is really, I find her character super interesting. I have whole headcanon theories about what she is and all that kind of stuff. And she plays really well with Ethan. Like, they play well off of each other as both like confident, sly people. And then she keeps like just at the last second kind of outsmarting him, and I think that is a really fun dynamic to see Ethan kind of like lose a step and have to be like, oh, shit. And then the stuff with Benji and Luther is really cool. I mean, Alex kind of talked about it. They're hacking the computer program to make the CIA think that other people are Ethan, and we kind of see them manipulating digital media, and then the entity comes in and manipulates digital media even better than they can because it controls everything. And so they get shown up, and then the bomb is cool because Benji has to go do it. And they like don't tell Ethan that there's a nuclear bomb in the airport because he's dealing with other stuff. And then they go and that whole sequence then has a whole bunch of stuff that's really cool for Benji as a character. Then he gets a lot of like character development, and there's like stuff that might be foreshadowing and might not be foreshadowing. We don't know yet because it's only one part of the movie. But I don't know. It's super fun.
You can go into it now if you want to, what you think, because I think it says something very ominous in a message to Benji.
Oh yeah. So the bomb, he opens the suitcase and it's got like one of those
like a cryptic cipher thing. It's like a bunch of letters on gears.
Yeah. From that weird Christian Tom Hanks conspiracy franchise.
Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. That's what I know that puzzle from. And the like key entry thing starts with saying you are done.
Yeah.
But done spelt D-U-N-N, Benji's name. And they do that like, and Luther hears Benji read it, and Luther says, "Oh no, we're dead. They already beat us." And then Benji's like, "No, it's my name. It knows who I am." And then has a bunch of like riddles and questions that Benji has to answer about like what's important to him, and answers other mixed in with regular riddles, and it's like learning more about him. And did you mean say what I think?
Yeah, say that you think what's going to happen in the
I think Benji's going to die in the next movie. I thought he was going to die in this movie.
I was worried that he was going to die in this movie.
I thought the movie was going to end with Benji getting like blown up or something, and then it was going to cut with Ethan all messed up because Benji died.
When I think about setup and payoff, and how and things like that, and how it works in one movie, and think of this as just one longer movie, and you put that in my head, John, I'm like, that's one of your headcanons where I'm like, oh, I could definitely see that happening. We'll get to another one later that I completely disagree with, but we'll get to but that one, I'm like, damn, John might know what's going to happen in the next movie, because it would make setup payoff sense. That's the only filmmaking thing I know. Setup payoff. Chekhov's gun.
Nice.
All right. And then that takes us to she escapes, and then he poses as her lawyer. And is this in Rome?
Yeah, I think we're in Rome.
Now we go to Rome, and then this is when they get handcuffed together, right?
Yep.
And brings us to an amazing car chase. And this is the one that reminds me, I think, of Fallout, right? Because then they started getting chased by all the cops. And I was like, when I watched Fallout, what I loved about it was it echoes Dark Knight Rises, just the feeling of all the cops circling you, and you're just, how is he gonna get out of this one? It's like they listen to me, and they're like, all right, don't worry, Sam, we're gonna do that again, but it's gonna be like even more elevated, because and this is another thing I love about this franchise, taking a task, making it harder, and it's a car chase is already pretty hard, and now you handcuff them together with the wrong hand, so they're like sideways, and then they're switching back and forth car seats, and you get an excellent. And somebody I heard in one of the few times I opened one review from a person I trusted, and they said there's too much humor in this movie, and I turned off that review. I was like, that's bullshit, because the humor works so well and stuff like that.
It was all so good. Yeah, so like we get like Tom's been tracking Haley Atwell, keeping up with her, the classic spy stuff and connections. But yeah, so we end up with them like she's getting away from him because she accused him of like sexually assaulting her, and so all these dudes are just holding him back, and so he's got to run and try to catch up. And then a great scene where like she's having trouble trying to speed getaway, like around these tight corners, hitting parked cars, and we get the bad guys showing up, and then she's stuck in her car, and then the motorcycle just flies and takes out two of the guards, and then Tom Cruise uses one of the guys' heads to bash open the window to like, all right, unlock the door and try to get her out. And then, of course, because she kept getting away, he handcuffs himself to her. And then that ends up with them, like, where she's the only one that would be comfortable driving the car. But when Tom has to do it, he's, like, arms crossed over himself. And it's just, like, incredible to see, because he's really doing that. Like, he's really handcuffed. He's really, like, trying to shift and, like, steer around these, like, tiny Roman streets while driving one-handed with the other one. And then, like, the beats that they pull out of this with, like him trying to help her just drive and just like be competent, but like, things going wrong, her being nervous because, people are out to kill her. And then him like getting control and still like skittering around because he doesn't quite have enough reach to do the thing. It's just, it's a wonderful chase scene, and just all the different escalating beats of it. Like, all right, so we got a little bit of cops, we got the CIA guys, And we got Paris, this like assassin character who we'll talk about more. Like she's following in this like, armored vehicle essentially. And so like one of them, they have to like skirt down the stairs in their little car, but she just crushes through the whole thing because she's in this armored vehicle. And then hers like stalls out, but they can't get out of this like roundabout for a minute. So it's just like all of these like little beats, both comedy and tension working together. I think the whole thing plays really well. And you get that classic, like the new person being like, where are you going? And Ethan just being like, I don't know, but we can't stay here. So we're going this way now. It's a bunch of good Mission Impossible moments.
That's a great Mission Impossible moment. The newcomer being blown away by how incredible Tom Cruise is in these scenes. And you, I'm glad you struck on that, Alex. My favorite character, one of my favorite characters in this movie, if not my favorite character, Palm Klemptia from Guardians of the Galaxy. She plays the Mantis character, who is like a fun, lighthearted brunette character in that movie. She is like an evil, like malicious blonde assassin in this movie, and she's oh my god, she reminds me of Famke Janssen in the GoldenEye, Xenia Onatopp, and just the person who takes glee in killing people for the bad guy team. And her in this car chase is just so good because like every time it cuts to her like doing mayhem or running over something, she's just loving it, and she looks so mad when she can't run over somebody. And she's like this, there's something that we'll get to in a second, but like already I'm like, man, she's kind of like the Joker. We'll get to more of that in a second. But there's a lot going on in this. Obviously, Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell bonding in this scene, John, is something that you've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, she can drive. She knows how to drive, but she's not good at speed driving away down these little roads. So she keeps skidding and crashing. And so there's this element to it when she's driving and Ethan is in the passenger seat, where he's like constantly being like, it's okay, this is fine. Just put it in reverse and hit the gas. That has a really interesting energy to it. And then Paris is great. We talked about it the other times that we've done these the bonus episodes that we did previously.
Right.
Where it's like these movies allow us to see what the characters are feeling about what's happening as opposed to just showing us what's happening. And so we get to understand all of the emotions and feelings the characters are all having. And like Paris getting little shots where she's giddy about them doing a chicken run and they're in a little tiny Beetle and she's in a huge Hummer, and so she's like, yes, I'm gonna crush these people, and we get that little shot of her being excited and happy, and then they skid off and we get that little shot of her being frustrated, and it's just that happens throughout this movie and all these movies, that I've really appreciated that about the Mission Impossible franchise.
She's and I love the fact, just the you wouldn't think that the heavy in this film would be a thinner, woman, and I like that. Strong female characters. The movie series does them really well. Is this a good time to jump into John's theory with Haley Atwell, or is there a better time? I'm trying to think if there's a better time to go into your theory,
I mean,
John.
we could do it at the end, or I could do it now.
Let's
pretty
do it.
Straightforward.
We've already brought it in. Let's go ahead.
Let's go ahead. I mean, we'll jump ahead to a line. But we can talk about it now.
Do you want to just give the audience what you think is going on with these two characters?
Grace is Ethan Hunt's long lost daughter.
That's not true.
Yeah, it for sure is. They keep alluding to some like crazy, mysterious, dramatic past where Ethan had to make the decision to join the IMF and leave his entire life behind, and she's an orphaned, like, rogue thief person, and she also does sleight of hand magic, and like there's a whole bunch of stuff. And that when Ethan is like, it's okay, it's fine, that felt to me like my dad teaching me how to drive.
I got that too, but I didn't extrapolate from that it was literal.
I mean, I'm always in that headspace after we watched 2, and I was like, Ambrose is Ethan Hunt's fraternal brother. I just am seeing like family relations in all these movies. So.
So my thing against that is she's only, this is going to sound ridiculous, she's only 20 years younger than him. And in Hollywood terms, that's dating age, So, but also, counterpoint, Harrison Ford, Sean Connery in Indiana Jones, only 10-year age difference. But they looked like father, son. So they went with it.
I mean, we haven't gotten like hard ages for how old she is in the movie and how old he is.
She could easily be 35 and he could be 65.
It fits in with the like timeline of this having happened prior to Mission 1, because like we get the flashbacks in the beginning when talking about it of Gabriel shooting a woman that looks very much like Haley Atwell, and that being something that like potentially Ethan was framed for. Which is why he was given the choice to join the IMF. But like the reason that I think that John's 100% correct, Like, so there's that later part we'll get to where like Luther, Benji, and Ethan are trying to convince her to join them, not just help them in this, but like actually join up with them. And they're explaining it. And she's like, "Yo, will keep me alive." And Luther's like, "Yeah." And Ethan's like, "We can't promise that because of other things that have gone on." But he's like, "But I swear to you, your life will always matter more to me than my own." And he says it straight to her. And that's such like dad energy for that to be the line delivery. Like it's very Ethan anyway. But the fact that he says it to her, even though he doesn't know her yet, as soon as like John was bringing it up, that line was just back. And I was like, oh, he said that straight to the new character that they really don't know yet. And she's even like, "But you don't even know me." He's like, "Why does that matter?" Like it's just, I think it's going to be, I'm with John. She's going to be his daughter.
Now, I don't know if Ethan knows or not.
Right. I think he's going to find out. I think he's going to be told by
it's
one of the
going to be
villains.
revealed in 2.
I think that first of all, on the red carpet, he's holding her waist.
Well, he's not her dad in real life,
right?
Yeah. I'm just saying, and I think that they're leaning into that like for looks, like the audience is putting them together as love interests because that's what the movie wants to convey. I still think the part 2 could end with them hooking up, So I'm so ready to eat my words on this in 1 year, just under 1 year. But we'll see what happens. I just think it's a very interesting theory that I don't agree with. And this, I think, Alex, would you like to come in here and tell us where we go after this?
Yeah, so we escape Rome, and then we found out early on from Grace, Haley Atwell's character, that she's going to be delivering the key to the buyer at this party in Venice. So we head to Venice. We get Benji, Luther, and Ilsa meet up and help Ethan escape from all the police and stuff after, some more crazy tension and a little more fun stunts and all those things. So then we go and we're at, a nice little IMF rundown, abandoned warehouse hideout, getting ready. We have some nice moments with Ethan and Ilsa, like finally being like back together after because being on the run and everything.
By this point, the film has told us that she actually was not killed when they, at the beginning, we thought she was killed. By this point, the film has told us she's not actually killed. And I am breathing a sigh of relief. I'm like, good. I love Ilsa. I don't want her to die, contrary to what I said in the previous podcast.
Yeah. So we get a nice little bit between them. They go on a nice gondola ride to the giant party being thrown by the White Widow, and then we get, Haley Atwell is in there. She gets approached by Gabriel, like sort of the human main villain, as we've talked about, the main villain being an AI. Like he's like the number one helper.
Yeah, Gabriel was at the airport.
Right. Yeah. As like a ghost almost, like just the entity's just erasing footage of him instantly, which is a pretty cool thing that's going on. But then, so we get there, and then, we get Vanessa Kirby back. We get her brother. I don't remember his name right now, but Zola's back, the fun people from Fallout, this wild looking party, lights going everywhere. And then, essentially the choice going on of like Ethan's trying to get the White Widow to help him. Haley's trying to figure out, or Grace is trying to figure out, like, what's the best way for me to just live? Gabriel's threatening everyone, and Ethan is classic, like, you have to trust me. Like, this guy's bad. I'm going to be good. If the only way that this works is like, if we don't help him out, but, using the fear of the whole thing, the White Widow eventually goes with Gabriel's side of the plan. And then we get the big ultimate choice for Ethan that he poses.
I love first of all, Vanessa Kirby. I'm one of the MVP, if not the MVP, maybe of the last movie, I think. No, Henry Cavill. Sorry. She's in the same movie as Henry Cavill. Sorry, Vanessa Kirby. Shouldn't have been in that movie. Should have been in a different movie. But yeah, with Henry Cavill, sorry. But anyway, if you're going to bring in somebody else that's not Henry Cavill back from Fallout, I was so happy to see Vanessa Kirby back in this movie. I love her flirtatious nature with Ethan. That's fun too. And then just bravo in the way they shot this. And then when we realize that there's all these lights and everything around him, and then they realize that the AI is there watching them like right then and there, and the lights like form a circle and become like an eye, and then you just feel that tension just get so like ramped up as everybody's trying to make Vanessa Kirby make the right decision right there, or make what they think is the right decision.
Yeah.
Just how did you feel about it? You kind of described it all. How did you feel as that was going on?
Oh man, it was great. It was tense. We get a nice little beat like earlier in the movie. Ethan sort of describes to Grace like her past and all this stuff, like, his spy connections. He's looked her up, and then we get that like elevated by Gabriel knowing even more, and then also describing, like, we get here that like more of him and Ethan having a past that we'll like get into more, and then probably get explained way more in the next movie. But like you get him like inverting what we see in every movie of Ethan to Grace, where he's like, he'll do it. He'll tell you he's going to save you. He's going to do his best, but like you're going to get killed because like the mission's going to be more important or whatever. Like it's just sort of, he takes all of those like the moments of failure from the previous 6 movies and then turns that into like he's a manipulator as well, which was really powerful. But yeah, that whole build up, the reveal that the party is actually the AI, all of that stuff. It was just like, I mean, again, a kid in a candy store. I was like, whoa! I didn't see that part coming. You know, some of the like the little beats of like trying to invert it. I was like, nice, classic McHugh. You know, like the mirrors and like really good villains to like counteract Ethan's hero. And then obviously love having Vanessa Kirby back and her brother Zola. I think they were both really well used in this whole movie, which was nice to see Zola have a bit more than just being an idiot.
Yeah.
Like he's still an idiot, but like the beats that he gets throughout this movie were really nice. So it was fun having him back. But yeah, like that whole buildup of tension. And then like, you know, as like, we'll let y'all get into it, but Gabriel basically saying, I know what's going to happen. Like, Ethan, you have to choose. One of these 2 people's going to die. And then he just like walks out like it's nothing. And it like the way he delivers the line, the confidence, like it's a tense scene and leading into even more tension to go ahead.
John, so much is happening here, and I just want to one more time talk about how great Vanessa Kirby is, because you can see like a tear swell up in her eye as she's just like she's delivering. I can't remember the exact line she's delivering, but you can tell like that character is feeling the intensity of this decision right here. What are you thinking as this is happening?
I mean, you know, all of the elements of this conversation, because as tense and dramatic as it is just these people having a conversation, and it's shot and filmed and the dialogue is delivered in such a way that it manages to still be very tense. And Vanessa Kirby, not really like, she's trying to, I feel like she's simultaneously, initially she was like trying to make a good deal, right? And the meeting kind of starts off with Ethan being like, okay, you're trying to figure out who to give it to because you want everybody to like you. But if you give it to one person, everybody else will hate you. So like, what do you do in that situation? And then Gabriel shows up and he's like, oh, you give it to me because I work for an artificial intelligence that has gained sentience and knows everything. And so if you don't give it to me, you'll just die because the AI has already calculated that you wouldn't if you don't. But you're going to, so it knows you're going to. So you can't do anything other than what I'm telling you you're going to do. And Vanessa Kirby, as this kind of self-serving character, it feels like she understands that it's a bad idea to give it to him, but also that she believes that he's right about it. And so she is in this position where she kind of has to do the wrong thing in order to live. And then Ethan is there right in her face being like, no, you can't give it to him. If you give it to him, then he's right and we're screwed. But you could give it to me. I could do this. I'm Ethan Hunt. And then Gabriel just not caring. He's just like, I don't even really have to continue to be in this conversation because I know what's going to happen. One of these 2 women is going to die, and then I'm going to get the key at 11 a.m. tomorrow on the train anyway.
Yeah.
And then, you know, skipping ahead a little bit, the fact that ends up being
What happens?
Ethan gets the key by the end of this whole scene, and he has it, but he still has to go on the train to take it to him. So even though the White Widow isn't the one that is delivering the key, it is still there on the train exactly where the AI, the entity, and Gabriel said it was going to be. So it's this just this whole dynamic is interesting.
And Palm Clementine is in this scene as well, and she's got her literal Joker makeup by this point, and that's got to be, I'm not even gonna say it. It's got to be an intentional thing. That's such the energy the character has, and they're like, you're already thinking it. Let's just give her Joker, and then with the Famke Janssen and Goldeneye thing, and then as we move into the action scene that follows, they all scatter, and we get Palm Ketamine with Tom Cruise going mano a mano, and she's like trying to choke him with her legs, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's so good. Let's throw to you, John, first, since we have going to you second. So let's go to you first now. What did you think of the ensuing action scene, and something big happens at the end of it?
That the action scene is amazing. They're in Rome, right?
They're in Venice now.
Venice
Venice.
now.
So they're in Venice. Everything is like cramped streets and bridges and like causeways. And so everything is very constricted, but the camera still has lots of freedom of movement. It goes up to do top-down shots that are super cool. And, the fight choreography is then very like space controlling. Like there's the bit of it where Ethan gets cornered in this really tight hallway by Paris and some other goon. And they're on either side of him. And he's like kicks one, but then gets kicked by the other one. So he has to turn around and fight that one. But then this one gets him. And then he does this thing where he like flips the guy over. So they're both on the same side. And now he's like evened up. It's just like, and that gets carried through the whole action scene. All of this like movement and space control. And it's so good.
And the reason he's over, like far away, I think we've reached this part, is because I love that. It's so, I'll say what happens is the AI impersonates Benji on the comms saying, "Oh, go over here. Oh, sorry, go over here." And it's like, and it's saying it sounds a little off. We know it's not Benji, and they do a good job with the sound design as well. It's a little off, but not enough off to Ethan. And by the time he realizes it's too late, and then the AI as Benji just starts talking shit to him, and I'm like, oh my god. And the reason I love that is because it may seem parts of this movie on paper may be a little, science fiction, a little too out there for a Mission Impossible movie. But man, in the year 2023, you can do that with somebody's voice. So it's like so much of this stuff feels so prescient. I just loved that. What did you think of this whole action scene, Alex?
Yeah, it's incredible. The whole like the foot chase of just Ethan, because the CIA agents have shown up at this party as well. So like as he's fighting off the guards, the White Widow's men, like those guys are there again. So, you got a great Tom Cruise run through some like gorgeous candles. Like it's almost like, there's like we've already had it, but like we're just going to have a really nice, beautiful one, like a self-indulgent one. And I loved that. But yeah, so we're running through and like the whole time in the lead up to when it switches to the AI Benji, like the AI is still trying to take down like satellites. Like Luther's like hacking different satellites to help Benji have a connection with Ethan, and it's like taking him down, and he's like, this thing can take him down faster than I can hack him. And so like the audio's already getting kind of distorted like between Benji and Ethan, and then like there's that moment where Benji's like trying to say something, and then it's like go left, and it's even doing the like, oh wait, no, go right, like from Benji and other movies. They're like, oh sorry, I had the screen messed up, go this way, like it's doing all of his like flubs and like little nervousness and everything. It's so well done. And then just like the moment of horror, like we as the audience know that it's not, but like Ethan is just like totally bought in. And then that moment of horror where he's like, oh no, she's too far away from you, but Ilsa's not. And it has Ilsa in the comms too, that she can make it to save Grace, who's now like we've seen arrive with Gabriel on the bridge, and he's there to kill one of the two. He doesn't know, and he doesn't care, which is another reason why I really like him as like the second, I guess, to this AI, because he's just like, yeah, whatever. If you're here and the AI wants you dead, I'll kill you. No worries. But yeah, that whole bit, and then like John was saying, the fight between Ethan, Palm, and the other goon in that little tiny alleyway, like it's so cramped. Like they're like barely framing it. It's like wondering how you get like the people in there to do all of this stuff, because it's like. I'd be like barely squeezing through. It's a tiny little, but yeah, it's intense. It's great. The whole thing, and just like the drama of like, you just know Ethan doesn't really care about either of these people. He just wants to go to try to save the people, to prove to himself and the AI that like he's not destined to do this. Like he can't be. And it's devastating, but it's super well done. The whole thing.
And then they do it. They do the thing that I've been teasing this whole time that we've been talking, and they teased us at the beginning, got me and I think they knew what they were doing. They were like, okay, you're calm now. Okay, you think Ilsa's fine. Fuck that, she's dead. Not after, or only after, I should say. Only after, not before. An amazing sword fight scene. I just love Ilsa with a sword taking on Gabriel. It was so well. He's got a knife, and it was so well choreographed. It was good. She's doing like quick, like surgical little like tried cuts, trying to like, it's like not like a Pirates of the Caribbean like cutlass battle, but it's more like a, it makes like, it looks like more like you're like trying to hurt them instead of like you're dancing. So it was very well done. And as she's getting, cut, you can see her start to like, like and again, a lot of these action movies, you just don't feel like the impact of when they're fighting. In this movie, you do. And then they kill Ilsa, and I was very sad about that, and I was like still in shock. And then Tom Cruise comes and finds her, and like, no, the knife's still there, and her like eyes are still open, and I'm like, she's dead, like dead. John, Were you mourning like I was?
Yeah, I mean, I had got tricked into thinking that she was gonna live because they faked a death and then she didn't die, and I was like, oh, they're not gonna do that twice. But then like Grace shows up at the bridge first and has a fight with Gabriel, and she like has his 2 daggers, and they have their own little fight where Gabriel doesn't have a weapon, and then he gets the daggers back from her when he beats her up.
Yes.
And then he's going to go stab her, and Ilsa shows up.
And he even says, like, I
I'm
hope
glad
it was you. Yeah.
And
it's
it's like, and then they have the sword fight, and she's doing all these crazy like spins and flips and like kneeling down to duck under daggers and stuff. And then she loses. And it's like, oh, yeah.
I mean, it's devastating because like we saw her go up against the Bone Doctor or whatever in Rogue Nation. So like we've seen her be competent
She's
in a
so
blade
capable, yeah.
battle. So like, I mean, it's devastating, but it's like, yeah, Gabriel's not messing around. Like this guy took down Ilsa Faust, who like, you know, was like keeping up with Ethan. So, I mean, it's elevating a villain. It's really good, but yeah, it was devastating because I loved Ilsa's character. So, you know.
Maybe I should have waited for here, but this is especially why I think that Haley Atwell is the new love interest. I think they literally, well, I don't know, literally, but like they killed off. The idea is Ilsa's now out of the way, so now Tom Cruise is free to move on to the next one. We'll see how that goes.
Nah, bro. Ilsa and Ethan's relationship was, I mean, you know, we never see them like explicitly hook up in any of the movies that they're in, but it's clearly implied that they have.
Right.
And so I think that they got rid of Ilsa to focus on the father-daughter relationship as opposed to the Ethan-Ilsa romantic relationship. And then they don't have a stepmom figure when they reveal that Grace is Ethan's daughter.
What I want to do is I want to go to Tom and I say, was Ilsa the love of your life? And he'll say, how do you answer a question like that? That's a reference to, okay. And then and what I do like in a melancholy kind of way, she's dead now. So now but we do get a moment to sit with that. And
or at least we think she's dead.
I think she's dead. Ilsa's dead.
She might not be.
Ilsa's dead.
Gotta see another movie.
Yeah,
I can hold on to naive hope for a little while longer.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'll buy into it. Sure. And we still got Vanessa Kirby. We still got, you know, we're doing all right. Palm Clementine's still alive, so that's good. But they'd give us a second to have Ethan sit with her death, Ilsa's death. The rooftop in Venice, where they were cuddling, canoodling, and clearly, I'm like, they're clearly a couple, like energy. Whenever they're leaning on each other, and then they basically go on a date on the way to the mission,
right?
And then the similar framing of that to now it's like, but the lighting is different.
Yeah.
Tom looks depressed. He's by himself now. It was so well done. I was damn, that was.
And even like we cut back in, and Luther's like, you know, John gets his classic sad Luther. You know, the emotional depth of Luther Stickle, the Net Ranger, is just great. But like when so he's talking to Grace after this, and like sort of, you know, like Grace is like, she's dead because of me, and Luther's like, no, you're alive because of her. And like that's how it went down. Well, I thought was a really good moment.
That's good.
But then we cut into Benji, who's just been out of focus in the background, and he was crying like at the death of Ilsa as well. So it's just really nice that like, because like you see that build up from Rogue Nation where he's like, she was trying to kill me, and Tom's like, that doesn't make her a bad person, to then like still not really trusting her and Fallout a little bit because he's like, she's trying to kill us again, to now like utterly devastated. Like, so that moment for me was really good. Like we don't see it on screen very much, but just all of those beats that like Benji and Ilsa did become friends. He did care about her a lot. You know, like she was, whether officially working with the IMF, like she's a part of their team. So I thought all of that, like the way they, like all the way they handled Ilsa's death, I thought was really good, even though like we do have a lot of movie to get into. So we kind of, the plot starts picking up again, but they give us just enough of that and like all the right reactions from all the characters. It was really, really well done.
This movie made me care more about the death of Ilsa Faust than Force Awakens made me care about the death of Han Solo. Said it. John, you want to talk about a little bit about Sad Luther? As I throw to you about Sad Luther, just because, you know, it's a thing you wanted to talk about going into this movie, so I was going to let you expand on it. But also, Alex brought up Benji feeling sad, and the AI makes Benji say, you know, the thing he cares about most is his friends. And I thought that was a great evolution of that. But, you know, we get some great Luther moments as well.
Yeah, I mean, Luther's awesome through the whole movie. He's, you know, we've talked about it in the other movies. Luther is very emotionally intelligent, and he's always like kind of the one grounding everybody emotionally. And then in this movie, he like every conversation that he has is like a meaningful conversation about what everybody's going through or what's happening, what needs to happen. So he's just, again, gets a lot of really good space to be just empathetic and conscious of everything. We don't get any Luther backstory, which is what I wanted, but there's a lot going on.
You got a little taste where he was like, I tried that life. We all did, and it led us here. There's a little bit. You got a tip of the hat from old McHugh. It's like, I see you, John. Don't even worry.
Maybe we'll get a spin-off movie series with Luther.
Part 2 is a send-off to Ethan Hunt's character, but then we get...
Ving Rhames takes over the series. It's just him out-hacking literal artificial intelligence. Like...
and this is whenever Grace Haley Atwell's character is fully brought into the fold, and she, and this is what one of you guys both seem to really like, the redefining of the "choose to accept it" line. Would anybody have any particular way they want to talk about it first?
Oh yeah, I mean I can get into it, like because again in the very beginning when the new agent brings Ethan the briefing, he's like, you made a good choice, like he has him go through the steps and almost like a training scenario, like the final test of the IMF potential type thing. We're not really told any explicitly what it is, but it's got that kind of energy. But then again in that like the intelligent community's briefing, they're like, yeah, but if they have to choose to accept it, and that one of them's like, what kind of agent like gets to choose what a superior tells them to do? And then also in this moment we're seeing that like all of them were really like given that choice when like their life was in a rough spot. I mean, maybe aside from Benji, who seemed to have wanted to join up already, like in this one we're sort of learning that Ethan was in a rough spot when he was very young, and Kittredge gave him the choice, choose to accept the mission. And obviously Luther, at some point, a similar thing, or had to make the choice to be no longer disavowed as he is when we meet him in 1. So it was, but also like just the way they talk about that, like your mission, should you choose to accept it, making it like into a lore as opposed to just like this, clever bit of dialogue that's been around since the show in the 60s, this classic little bit, I thought was really good and really well executed in this. And it connects with also like choice versus algorithmically determined fate. It's like, I was thinking about that as y'all were talking, like we were talking about what Gabriel said and all that stuff. I was like, oh man, the movie's playing with the ideas of choice and fate, and we see like Ethan making choices factored into an AI predicting that like, yeah, the key will land at his feet and all of those things. But just like that, like doing that, having like the artificial intelligence, the predictive math versus now this new idea of like having to make a choice, or like the White Widow being presented with the choice of who to give the key to, is like, I mean, it's been really good. I'm excited to see where they go with it. But yeah, like the whole elevating it into like this calling almost of, you choose to accept it, and like you're going to be a ghost, but you're also going to have this tight-knit team and who's going to have your back forever, and y'all are going to save the world and make a lot of cool movies, maybe jump out of an airplane or two, I don't know.
And then this takes us to the getting ready for the train heist. So now we're I guess the setup would be Vanessa Kirby's gonna be on this train to give it to Gabriel, give the key to Gabriel, and they want to replace Vanessa Kirby with Haley Atwell, who has very different facial structure, and have her wear a mask that changes her face, whatever, makes her face smaller. She got like plastic surgery in 2 seconds.
They're really good masks. Yeah, they're really good masks.
They're really good masks, but they're also old technology. Yeah. But they have to use old technology now because it's all analog now. They're using the different comms, so that way they're having to outsmart technology. That's a fun tint to it. I like that. And then the idea is they're going to replace Vanessa Kirby with Haley Atwell. Tom Cruise, his mask breaks, so he can't go. So he's got to get on the train another way. Gabriel speeds up the train, so his original point of entry is not available, so he's got to improvise, as Ethan does. John, would you like to we'll talk? I mean, the train is kind of 2 halves, but this is the first half with just getting on the train. Would you just like to talk about just building up to that, and then we get more? I guess real quickly, one of my favorite Benji moments where he's like, "I'm under a lot of pressure right now." It's like, come on, Tom Cruise. But yeah, what do you think, John?
I mean, the whole train again. Every time that you throw to me, I feel like I say, "Oh, that was really awesome."
I mean, it was awesome,
but all of the movies are really awesome.
It's not my fault that the movies are awesome all the time, but it's really awesome. like they do this thing where, you know, initially the plan is that they both, Ethan and Grace, get on the train together and pose as Zola and the White Widow. But then the mask machine messes up, so Grace has to get on and just pose as the White Widow, and Ethan has to get on a different way. And there's this, you know, another element to my she's his daughter thing. When they're trying to convince her to do it, she says, "Promise me you'll be there." And he's like, "I promise I'll be there." And that scene, when I watched it, I was like, oh, that's like the classic
come to my baseball
Dad,
game.
please promise to show up to my baseball game. Be here for this Christmas kind of thing, you know? And it's just the super spy version of it. Yeah, I promise I'll be there. And then he has to try and show up. And then, you know, how he gets on the train is crazy. We all see it in the trailers and promo material. It's the big motorcycle jump off the cliff. But they do this thing where Ethan doesn't know how he's going to get on the train because he misses the first turn. And so he's relying on Benji to tell him where to go. And so Benji is just telling him which way to turn to get to wherever the jump is. And then Ethan is like, okay, when am I going to go downhill? And Benji's like, soon. And it's like, you know, it puts us in Benji's position. We know what's about to happen, because we've seen the jump in all the promos, and so we know this is leading up to that. But Ethan doesn't, and so we get to like kind of giggle along with Benji being kind of cagey about it. And then they get to the cliff, and Ethan is like, "Oh my God, are you serious?"
It's like there's not even enough room to jump off. Come on.
Benji's just like, "You have a parachute," and he's like, "That's not how this works."
And then, you know, the jump itself is super cool. In the IMAX, it's crazy. It fills your whole vision, and Ethan is falling away, and the motorcycle drifts away, and the music cuts to silence, and so you just get that sound effect of the wind. And then we go back into the train, because he like opens the parachute, and then we cut away, and we're back in the train with everything that Grace is doing, and she's doing her own whole little conflict thing. It's not Gabriel that the White Widow is selling the key to. It's Kittredge, and like, what is he doing on the train? And the CIA guys are there, and Zola's suspicious because she's not acting like his sister, really, because she's like trying to. And it's really fun watching the actress Vanessa Kirby play the character of Grace, playing the character of the White Widow, and trying to like be pseudo accurate in facial expressions, but also work in little inaccuracies. And then Zola like looking over at her every now and then, like, well, that was a weird smile, but he's kind of incompetent and dumb, so she gets away with it. But yeah, I mean, then you know, I don't know how much I want to.
I figured you could leave off with the big, you know, when Tom Cruise enters the plane. Tell us how he enters the train.
So, you know, the plan is that he's going to land on the roof and then take off his parachute and climb down and get in the car. But Grace is cornered by Gabriel and some other henchman, and the other henchman like moves forward to take the key from her, and he gets the key, and then Gabriel is like, is it Gabriel?
It's Zola.
It's Zola. Zola's like, kill her. And so he goes to kill her, and then Tom Cruise just crashes through the side of the train and hits that dude out of a fucking window. And it's like cartoonish, but
it's
hilarious.
So good.
It's so good. It is a little, I think, was it you, Alex, who said, it's movie 7. We're having fun.
Yeah, we've earned it. And also, I mean, just like it's set up in the way of like the train's now like speeding faster than it should. He's
gonna miss.
parachuting. Yeah, like he's just got to like get there. So, I mean, it works. It is funny in the sense that like it's perfectly aligned, but also he's Ethan Hunt, so of course he saw and like flew his way in. Like it's so good. I also love, I was just thinking about it now, how Zola has a gun pointed at Grace's character, and like has this guy, he's like, all right, take the key, all right, now kill her. Like he's just still kind of a dip,
getting somebody else
he's getting someone else to do the work for him. Like at the end of Fallout, he has someone else open his door, even though his sister gets herself out of the car. Like he's just, and that whole bit with like Zola being incompetent, like his gut is telling him that it's not his sister, but since his sister's in charge and like berates him when he messes up, he's like
afraid.
Yeah, I guess I won't say anything. I don't know. This is weird. It's just like, it's like, I mean, McQuarrie and team, they understand these characters.
That's
it's
a
like
great
it's
point.
so good. All of this stuff, like how it all works together. But yeah, like John was talking about, the whole like joke, because in a lot of movies, Ethan's keeping information from his team to keep
Right.
them alive and all that stuff. And in this movie, we get the team keeping information from him
Yeah.
so it doesn't distract him from what he's supposed to do. You know, like we get that in the beginning with the nuke and the suitcase, and then we're getting it now with Benji like leading him up this trail. And I just love it so much because, again, like John said, we saw it in the trailer, we knew it was coming, and then you just get Tom like going on these trails, and he's asking Benji, he's like, all right, when am I going to start going downhill? Benji's just like, soon, you know. It was such a great way to have like used that gorgeous stunt to market for like basically a year. Like they had like the featurette come out about that stunt around the same time the initial trailer dropped. Like it's like we've known that this thing was happening, and then for it to be that something that like, yeah, we know you're gonna know. So the joke is that Ethan Hunt doesn't know that he's about to do this stunt was just like such a fun way to like use not only the movie but like trailers as well as part of the whole experience of a film. I love it when movies can pull that kind of thing off.
And it can't be said enough. John, you already kind of alluded to it a lot, but so I'm going to kind of echo what you're talking about. But just the way that they shoot the jump itself, you know, the camera follows him as he's driving over, and then as it lets you like lean into it, like, oh my god. And then as he goes over, the camera or the audio cuts out, and you just hear. And there's one guy in our theater was like, poor motorcycle, and you just see it fall, and just, you know, it's just, oh my god, you feel it. It's so intense. It's so good. And then you might have convinced me, or this might have convinced me, John, just the way they use the recurring, whether it's intentional or not, Tom Cruise getting Haley Atwell out of a situation because he's just being so protective over her. Because they kind of do that with the motorcycle earlier, where he flies by and gets the guys that are going to get her. And now he literally flies in and knocks them out. And I'm like, damn, the more maybe, John. I don't know.
So it works if she's not. Right? Because we have seen that Ethan as a person,
he's a protective.
Right.
Yeah.
He wants to
Protective
keep everybody
of
safe
everyone.
all the time. He cares about his team more than anything else. He's willing to risk nuclear annihilation so that Luther doesn't die. So it's fine if it's not. I just was getting so much father-daughter energy from their dynamic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm ready for part 2.
I am too.
Say. Yeah.
So we got a couple more things, 2 more big things before the movie kind of wraps up, and then so now we get Gabriel versus Ethan on the top of the train, and there's a lot to it. We're running a little bit at a time, so maybe not too in depth. But Alex, what'd you think of that?
I thought it was a really good fight on top of the train. Again, we get to see like them be pretty well matched, and you know, like there's you know, the classic, you're on top of a train, there's low things, you got to dodge them, you got to go, you know, and Ethan like reacting to the environment, like with Gabriel like having a slight advantage by looking in the direction the train's going is really great. And then when they're actually in the tunnel and like Ethan, you get one of those good Tom Cruise like Ethan Hunt moments in these later ones where he's like, okay, we're laying down, we're gonna rest, and then we'll stand up and fight. And Gabriel's like army crawling close with the knife, and you just see Ethan's face. He's like, for real? Like we can fight each other in a second. Can't we just like lay here?
Yeah.
That's all really good. And then so I mean, like that whole thing is playing well, and like I like the reveal that it's Kittredge that's on the train. I'm really excited to see what we're gonna do with Kittredge in the next one as well. Like how cold and calculating is he, or is he, you know, still trying to be a good person within this big thing? And I like, you know, obviously like he knew Max in the first one, and the White Widow and Zola are Max's children. So like him being like, that can't be you. You know, you were a little girl last time I saw you. And it's like, you get that moment of like, oh, he knows that it's Haley Atwell wearing a mask. But then it's like, oh, right. Because he knew him as kids. He's just being, you know, himself. It's all of that was great. And then, so we also get the agents on the train by this point, and they see Kittredge there, like taking care of the White Widow who's like coming out from being like knocked out. So that, and like, I love that he's like taking care of those kids still. Yeah. You know, it just like, again, paying off that lore and the whole thing was really good. But they're like, sir, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm not here, but here's what you need to do. And like, so they go up, and you get up on top of the train, and then you get another wonderful Ethan moment of like, and because you've seen this throughout the movie we hadn't talked about too much, but like the main agent, Shay, I forget his name right now.
Shay Wiggum?
Yeah, thank you. Shay Wiggum. they clearly have some kind of a past that we haven't learned about yet.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of little moments where he has the drop on Ethan because Ethan's protecting someone else, and Ethan just gives him the classic face, and he's like, I know, and then goes and like helps him. And then again, Ethan's like, okay, we got to do this because we're gonna have to save the train. It's going too fast. We got to figure out how to stop it. And then he gets the two guys to help him out. And even Kittredge is like, what are you doing back here? He's like, you're not here, sir. So you better,
Yeah, that was a good payoff.
It was just so many great little moments in this whole thing, aside from like bombastic, wonderful action, all of these great little character beats throughout the whole thing. So I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so, Gabriel gets away, and we got earlier in the film, we didn't talk about it. Luther, being the empath that he is, he's like, understands. He's like, the algorithm's counting on one of two things to happen. Either you get killed or you kill Gabriel. He's like, that's why Gabriel's here, because the AI, I love that this movie has an AI that's scared of Ethan Hunt.
Yeah.
Like, it's like just cheesy and wonderful enough that it just fills my heart with joy. It's so good. But yeah, so I mean, and also really intelligent of Luther that like this thing is like planning on potentially Gabriel dying, so no one knows how to find it. So either, you die and then that's fine, the AI wins, or Gabriel dies and then you can't find it and the AI wins as well. So that gets paid off, but there is a moment where, you're sitting there and we think like it tries to sell that Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt might actually kill Gabriel. Yeah. But then like we learn after Gabriel gets away that was just so he could like pickpocket the key from him. So it's like we lose and we win at the end of this film, which I enjoyed, like there's still a lot to do. Gabriel gets away, but we do have the key and we do have sort of just enough information for the beginning of the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if you want to talk about
John,
Tom
you want
Gabriel with Carrie Ells.
I just like what you said, Alex. I like the levels. I like you add levels. He's got to go side to side. He's got to go up and down. Is all that stuff. So that's what I want to say about the action scene on the chase, or the action scene on the train, and it's better than Indiana Jones. That's what I want to say as I threw it to you, John.
There's so much stuff happening on the train. It's basically, is it the last third of the movie?
Basically, yeah.
Just about, yeah. I mean, from like getting to the train to like the very end, it's a huge action scene.
And there's so many moving parts throughout this whole movie. Like we haven't really talked about those CIA agent guys,
right?
But there is some like crazy backstory. I think that the main agent guy is like Emilio Estevez's older brother or something like that, and that's why he doesn't like Tom Cruise.
Oh my god.
But they're super interesting, and the action scene is super interesting, and like all that stuff. I don't know. It's all cool.
It's good stuff. Yeah, I mean, and I think, and one thing I remember, it's a big plot point that we learn at this time in the film is that the American government made the AI, and it got out of control, and the AI trapped itself, so that way they couldn't get to it. It became sentient, went rogue, and they literally used the word military-industrial complex. I cannot remember they talk about how amazing it would be to have the AI with the military-industrial complex, and I'm like, damn, somebody watched Mission Impossible 3.
Because Carrie Elwes gets that cool little like, oh, I'm actually dirty, and I'm doing a back deal, and I'm having this crazy like pitch about you can't kill me because I'm the only person who knows where the computer program is. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
And then he gets murdered, and it's like, oh yeah. But like Carrie Elwes really gets to like chew the scenery a little bit, and it's fun.
Yeah, he was great in all of his little bits, and especially like his like, oh yeah, I get to be a smarmy villain right here. Like, yeah, I just want power, baby. I'm cool.
And then the last thing, the last big thing I have for the movie that I want to talk about is just that amazing, like they stop the train and they save the day, but they're stuck on the train as it's falling over. And just
so
that
like a bridge explodes, they disconnect the main engine, and they're trying which does the emergency brake, and then it's like slowly still going over the edge. And Ethan and Grace are like, they're right there. They're on the first car after the engine, so it's like you get this wonderful escalation of like they run across the roof of the first one because the door's still locked, and then they're like in the kitchen compartment, and it's slowly still got enough momentum, and the bridge is crumbling,
and it's just chaos in the kitchen. Everything's blowing up.
It's on fire. The oil's falling out of the fryer. Like everything's everywhere. And then the next one, they're in like the train car with the pool or the grand piano. And
and that
yeah.
was tense too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so good because it's like we get both of those and they're like a little bit silly but still very tense. And then we get this and like the train is now hanging and the grand piano is like up there and it's like they're standing on like a platform and it's like hanging on by like a hook just barely.
Yeah.
Just barely dangling. And another great moment of like, again, they're kind of father-daughter stuff coming through. Like he's like, you got to let me go. I'm going to, and like she's holding on to him almost like a child would. Like, no, don't leave me. He's like, you got to trust me. Like, I'm going to jump over there so I can save both of our lives. And then he does. And he's like, I'll catch you. Don't worry. And then, yeah, like again, that nick of time thing where she jumps, he catches her. And then the grand piano just crushes out the whole back. And you just get this great top-down shot of them hanging there, like all of the debris of the piano falling onto like already like 2 or 3 train cars at this point of stuff. It's all just it's so well done. Like just like the ramping up of tension, especially after like we've had again like I don't know, maybe half hour, 45 minutes of like action and tension beats for this still to just be so visceral and so engrossing. It's I mean, it's good movies, man.
It had this moment on during that sequence where they're climbing up the train cars, where it's like, you know, they clear one hurdle and then immediately the train scooches a little more towards the end and there's a new element to them having to get out. And it's like it goes on for so long that there was a moment where I was like, okay, enough. But then it keeps going and it came back around like that race car video where it's just like they go for long enough that I just started like loving it again.
Yeah, same. I think that the length of it worked, like how it's because there's so much fast-paced action happening in the preceding 30 minutes, so that we get a slower like tension building. Okay, you know, it's like it's very well done. It's so good, and I think that's going to be an underrated action scene in this movie because everybody else is going to talk about that stunt going off and a lot of the other on top of the train, but I'm like, man, that was tense as hell.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that and the car chase, like that was good car chase was just so fun and
so
like
many
moments
good
of
scenes.
tension. I mean, this is why we go to the movies.
And the payoff, Palm Klimtiv, Palm Kazakhstan saves Mission Impossible Tom and his love interest Haley Atwell as they're about to fall. Who saves him at the very end? It's Palm Clementine, and because he spared her life earlier in the film. It was so good.
It's good stuff.
It's a good era. She got a nice little arc, you know,
and she's not dead.
Yeah, and she's not dead, so she could. But that felt like a good part help that one. It's things like that help this movie feel like its own experience. I didn't feel like you just cut a 2-hour movie off in half. We 4 hour.
We get a good arc from Grace. We get a good arc, you know, like we get the beginnings of good arcs from both Benji and Luther, you know, and Ethan obviously is like in like it's like a I don't know. Like he's made it through like that story circle, like, but enough to where it's like satisfying. Like we've been on a journey with him. We know there's more to do, you know, but like it doesn't leave you feeling like this is just a preamble. It's like this feels like, you know, the first half, like, but like a full
experience
story. Yeah.
Because the primary objective of the movie, the key is completed.
Right.
We have both pieces. Ethan has them both. They know where they need to go. Like everything that the movie sets up as needing to be dealt with is dealt with. We just know that there's more the next half of it, you know.
Objective accomplished.
Yeah.
Objective. So this movie is Pirates of the Caribbean 2 is the last thing that I would like to say in the best way possible. The Pirates of the Caribbean 2 is a find the key storyline where everybody it's a bunch of opposing sides all trying to get to it, and ends with the bad guy thinking he has the thing and then looking down and being like, damn it, main character name. And that's literally what happens here. I mean, instead of the damn you Jack Sparrow, it's like damn you Ethan Hunt. And I was like, real recognizes real. I loved that. As a Pirates of the Caribbean head, as a Sparrow fan, pirate head, as an honorary member of the Black Pearl crew, I was very happy to see this. So this movie is why we go to the movies. This is a good film. This is a perhaps great film. I love Dead Reckoning Part 1. I cannot wait for Part 2. This is the best movie of the year. Maybe it's the best movie of the year. I don't know. I'll have to think about it some more. But
this is certainly the most fun I've had in a movie theater.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like even across the Spider-Verse, loved it to death. Very good, but like I had like this is just it's more fun. You know, like the action, the stunts. You know, like that one was gorgeous. The chase scenes were rad. But you know, I feel like this one handles being a first half of a 2-parter a little bit better than that one did. But yeah, I mean, it's great.
All right, Alex, do you want to finish kind of giving your final thoughts and then lead into a ranking, perhaps, of all the Mission Impossible movies now that we've seen Dead Reckoning Part One?
Yeah, I know. Oh man, and it's all moving around.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like overall thoughts, super. Like we talked about in our bonus episodes, the like hoping like to get more of that De Palma feel. I'm just like so excited for how much there was. Like, you know, we're in that sub in the opening and that camera gets canted. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, nice. And then it just kept doing it. Like when Kittredge and Ethan are talking, you're getting that same sort of like tension building with the canted angles, you know, and a lot of the fights were getting like closer, almost like that handheld action fight, but still not like the full Bourne style. Like it's still legible. It's still clear, you know, and like you're getting to see, but it's just, you know, they really upped their game in so many areas in this one. Like the score was amazing. I mean, mad shout out to the original Lalo Schifrin who wrote this back in the 60s is great. But yeah, this like Lauren Balfe, that's the correct pronunciation. I'm not even sure. Like has just done my favorite. Like 6 was great. This one, as I listen to it more, I'm probably gonna fall in love with it. I love the marching drums. It's so good. It's a lot of fun. So it'll be fun to get into that. And then as far as just like ranking this one, oh man, it's tough because like I think this may end up being my second favorite Luther Mission Impossible movie. Like it handled him so well. I mean, obviously, like my favorite one is the number one, especially where he gets called the Net Ranger and Phineas Freak and geeks out about, and then like to have that brought back and see his skills as a hacker, like him be like even telling Benji like, nah, you can't keep up with what I do. I was like, yes, thank you. Finally, Luther's back as like full power. So I really like it. But I as for right now, I still, because 6 is a complete story, I think that's still my favorite. This is up there though. This is like right there with 1 and Rogue Nation for me. So yeah, really great time, fun time at the movies. And I mean, we'll see, because I often tell people when I rate Tarantino movies, I was like, the Kill Bills would be my favorite Tarantino movie if I treated them as one movie. So that may be what Dead Reckoning becomes for me. My favorite if I just treat 1 and 2 as one long movie. Oh, the last thing I wanted to note before we go is like this definitely, it was interesting how they did the part 1, because like most of the Mission Impossibles, you have like the theme drop at the credits, which like we still got, but since McQuarrie's taken over, and I think they even did it with Brad Bird and some of the others, you get that like the highlight reel of all of the good moments, all of the classic, like the stunts, you know, the different characters, all of that, like you would get in the intro, but a little bit more for the credits, and we didn't get that yet. So like we don't even get the full credits completion yet. I gotta wait a year for like what I was excited for. As soon as like I felt the wrap up, I was like, oh yeah, let's get that, baby. Let's see all the fun moments and the cool. And then it just went to black and the credits rolled. I was like, dang it, McHugh, you've got me.
It is a little bit of a melancholy ending. It works.
Yeah, but in a really good way. Like I think you were right to mention Infinity War. Like it, you know, complete. We're down. We're not done. Like we're not broken. Like we did have a little victory here, but like but ready. I'm excited for the second one. So we'll see.
I can't wait. It's this is such a good movie, John. What do you think? Give your kind of closing thoughts on this movie, and then I'd love to hear where it ranks.
I mean, this movie is pretty amazing, and I'm hyped to see the next one. I wish they had just released. I wish they'd shot them both and then released the second one like 2 weeks later. Just do like, okay, here's 2 weeks of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now it's out of theaters. Here's the second one. Yeah. Or just release it as a 4-part movie. I'll watch a movie with intermissions.
Yeah,
that's true. I will as well.
But you know, as far as like ranking them, they did such a good job of bringing back the De Palma stuff.
Yeah,
the shot angles and the exposition conversations having like camera movement motivated by character movement and things like that. And so like, it might be recency bias because I've only watched this one once in theaters, and it was also the only one that I saw in IMAX, so maybe that has something to do with it too. But like, I think this one tops out. I think that 7 is this is 7, right?
Yeah, 7.
I think that 7 is probably my favorite one.
Wow,
nice.
And then then we're back down to what it was in the last.
Just give us a refresher if you don't mind.
Now it's 7 at the top, but I might change that when I get to see it again. And then 5 and 1 are paired for second place for different reasons. Yeah. Because 5 doesn't have the De Palma stuff that 7 has, and 1 does because it's De Palma.
Right.
And then 6 fall out after that, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4.
Wow, you moved 4 to the bottom too?
Oh yeah, no, that's right. That's right. 4
I was
is
like,
better
I've
than
convinced
3.
him. I've convinced.
No,
You
man,
think 4 is
I
better
don't
than
know.
no,
They're
fuck
tied.
off.
They're tied.
Yeah. So, and then this is where it segues into mine. I love 3. 3 is so good. I love what they did with that movie. I think that my monologue says a lot of the things I like about it, utilizing J.J. Abrams really well. There's some great stuff. I mean, there's not the real life locations, practical stunts that the later movies have. I just love the story so much, and story for me is king. So I love 3 so much. So number 3 is still my favorite. I will say that. Number 5 is still my second favorite. And it's so funny that you combine number 5 and number 1, John, because I put 3, 5, 7, 1, 6, 4, 2. 6 is right below this. I almost put this. I did put this above 6. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry,
that's
Alex.
fine.
I apologize to you, Alex.
Again, like
that's
we
what I
talked
wanted
about. Yeah, I'm not worried. Like, if I was again to step back and be entirely objective for those online nerds, like 1 is tighter. It's great. It's just fantastic. And Rogue Nation is just so well executed. It's like a heist spy, subterfuge one. But again, like it's my own like inner child, and like 6 being such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And like, again, like different connections, I goofed on the Snyder, but like that was also legit. Like I hated Man of Steel so much. I loved seeing Henry Cavill get killed in 6. It still feels good.
And that's part of why I love 6 is because it gives Henry Cavill a lot of great stuff to do. You know?
It's going to take a lot for part 1 and 2 of Dead Reckoning to top just like the visceral enjoyment I get out of Fallout. But it could do it. Like we're off to a very good start. Like right now, with it only being half the story, we don't get the full fun ending, good stuff. It's just there, but I do think, and I have got faith in McQuarrie and team that these two together could be my favorite. I'm very excited.
So just to recap, where does Dead Reckoning Part 1? You don't have to do the whole ranking, but what number? Where does it place in the?
I have it right up there in that like nebulous space of 1, 5, and 7. Like 1 and 5.
They're all
like
great.
just like barely behind 6. But again, that's mostly like personal connections and how much fun and how many times I saw that one in IMAX and regular theaters. Like I 6 blew my mind.
Yeah.
This one as well, but just like that was one that I was just having a great time with.
And that's a good point. Maybe this is just my experience that you had with 6. I'm having it with this movie. Because, anyways, so yeah. And just remind us where, and then for you, John, it's easy. This is your favorite Mission Impossible movie.
This is the top. I mean, I would be willing to put money on part 2 beating it for me. Because part 2 will have conclusion, right?
Yeah.
It'll have
payoff.
Right. But this one, I mean, it's so well done. And like the key is interesting, and all the characters have cool little backstory dynamics, and like there's so many moving parts. And like I really like those little CIA guys and their little conversations with each other, and I want to know what happens with them. And we're gonna get some sort of backstory for Ethan before the IMF in the next one. So like, I don't know, I'm hyped.
That's so good. This has been such a good experience. And this is number 3 for me, but we're just distinguishing between like 9 and 10 between all the movies. This has been such a great franchise to rewatch. I had think that I had never really paid attention to the Mission Impossible franchise until the year of our Lord 2023.
There's too many people like that. I'm trying to get to all of them. Cultural missionaries. That's
Thank
what
you.
We're doing.
Thank you, Alex.
Would you guys like to have an audit about the Mission Impossible movies after this?
I think that's a great time to end the show. That's been the season finale of the Film Fan Club show, guys. We're going to take a break for the rest of 2023, but there will still be videos on the YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribed at youtube.com/thefilmfanclub. We got a podcast feed where we might do some bonus stuff. You never know. It's on Apple, Spotify, Twitch. We talk about stuff live on Twitch. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the different things. Make sure you follow the Film Fan Club. It's been great talking to you guys here on the panel and you guys virtually at home. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, John. On behalf of everybody here, I'm Sam Carrico. See you next time.